Hi everyone, let us welcome you to the next part, whereby the first one we're just taking a look on the application layer. We just make some graphic user interface, we just implement some business logic to validate before saving data to database. Now we're going to deal with the persistence layer, where now before we save data to database, we're going to make sure these guys they're able to communicate. So I told you we have been there's some what you call the horizontal division in our application, so that you're going to have some crew of everything. We have under the view that's where we put our graphical user interface. So we're going to have the model. Under the model, that's where we're going to put to make sure we're going to have what you call actually under the model we put a podro class that's going to hold data that's going to be used under the persistence layer or DAO, so that's going to be saved data to the database. So actually the model, it goes with the DAO. It helps communication between a DAO. The model, it should be the way, actually it should be, we have what we call MVC, model, view, and the controller. Under the controller, that's where we implement all the business logic. And the view, that's where we put the graphical user interface. Then for the part of the model, that's where we did what we call data access object. Okay, we should also have what we call the controller. But now on for the swing, it is not an MVC from framework. That's the reason why we are not going to deal with the what we call the controller, because the swing is not an MVC. This is what we call MVC, but we're going to apply something that's going to help you to learn. So under the model, we're going to have, let us have three packages for view, model, and DAO. That's going to help us to access that some data to the database. That means this is called what you call data access object. It helps us to access, to make sure data is going to be accessed through the database, to send data. It helps communication between database and the application. So this is where we come up with what called the persistent model plus DAO. That's where persistence layer comes in. So here we go. So we're going to come up with the model and DAO. Then when we are done with the DAO, so of course we're going to come up with the database at the same time automatically. So without taking much time, let us go on and do some implementation. So first, let us open now the project that we're working on. So we have table person is going to hold ID, name, type, student, and lecturer. This thing is going to be on database level. Also, we have course ID, name, lecturer ID. So let us create simple things. So you are requested to create some new database. After creating database, you create a person and the course. For you guys who have the page admin, you can go ahead. I'm going to use the PostgreSQL, so that I'm going to create the things. Okay. So first, let us create new database. Also, for those who are using Windows, there are ways you create database. You go to the page admin, right click on database, and then you create database. Just use the name. You're done. For them, it's the same. For those who are Linux user, we end up using command line interface. Now for those who are Linux user, I would just love to use some command line so that you don't mess up. Okay, here we go. Let us go to the exchange directory to the Postgres user, and then provide your password, and then you just use PSQL. For those who are Windows, kindly go to the page admin, right click on database, you create a new database called me, any kind of the name. From here it's called me, the same, and so on. So for me, I'm going to just create database, and then database and called MIDI, same, and then post semicolon. You can see database has been created. Now we can grant all privileges to database called me the same to user. Use this guy. Okay, we just on database. It is on database. Okay, we're done. We just grant the permission. You just grant all privileges on database called mid-same to the exact the user wish to use. So now let us go on. Let us create something. So after do the things, you can go ahead, you go to your page admin, you connect and check if you have this kind of the new database. Or for me, I'm going to use only NetBeans so that I can be able to detect what's going on. The NetBeans, it has that kind of the capability to just go to the service, then you expand the database, and then you just, let us first, I do have some master passwords from here. Let us first remove everything you have from here. Let us now, let us create, okay. So now let us go expand the driver. You go to the PostgreSQL because I'm using PostgreSQL. Right click on it, you connect with this one, okay. If you have MySQL, just connect with the MySQL and so on. Then you connect with this one, and then you provide the Postgres database. It is me the same. Then the username, for mine it is this guy. The password also it is Java. And then remember the password. I would just like for you to come here, you copy this guy because you're going to use them. Or if you don't know, it's fine, but I'm going to show you how you can implement this one. After that, click finish. You can see I'm connected now. If I try to expand, and here you can see we have the public. Just go to the public. You can see under the tables we don't have anything. You can let us first use the graphical user interface to create tables, then we'll just use the SQL later on. Okay, so now you can come here, you right click on table, you can go ahead, you create a table, and then you name a table. You have two tables. The one is called person. Kindly use small letters by creating this kind of the table, and then you add the column. The column, I'm going to use this one on the things you have from here. It says we have person is going to have ID, names, type, and course. The course ID is going to be ID name and the lecturer ID. Here you go. So now we're going to have ID, of course, that's what they said. Let us use var character. Let us say ID, let us say 10 only. Then it's going to be our primary key. Then hit OK. And then we add another column is going to be person is going to be names. Okay, it's going to be var character. Let's put let's say 30, and then it's going to kind of be null, and then hit OK. So let us have also type. Let us give it var character. It's going to be 10. Type of it could be either student or lecturer. Lastly, we're going to have course. This one is going to be a foreign key coming from our course ID. Let us give it for var 10. And then hit OK. I'm not going to add some constraint so on. We don't need it right now. So after this one, click OK. If you are done, you can see table has been created automatically. Let us create the table, the next table. For the course, it's going to be use small letter course table. You add the column. We're going to have the ID. Also, it's going to be var character of 10 characters, and then it's going to be our primary key. And then hit OK. And then you add another one. Is going to be names for the course, and it's going to be var character. It's going to be 30. Let us put 30, and then hit OK. Last, we're going to have lecturer ID. We're going to have lecturer underscore ID, and then it's going to be var character of 10 of them, and then you're done. Then hit OK. We are done creating tables in database. So after done with creating tables in database, let us go to the project. Now let us create, let's click on it, you create some packages. We're going to create packages. Let us first create package for the model. Two of them is going to help us on the persistence layer. Let us also have DAO, that access object. And then under the model, you just put the Bojo class. The Bojo class comes from where? We have three classes. We have student, we have lecturer, also we have course. Those are the real life things that happens. That means those are the only project class you need. Of course, student and lecturer will be saved in the same table of person, will be identified by a type of them, either student or lecturer. But of course, we need three of them. So that means we're going to go ahead. Let's click on this guy. You're going to create Java class. It's going to be always the class starts with capital letter, student. You're going to be student, hit finish. Also, you're going to have let us create of them at the same time. Another class is going to be lecture, then finish. Another one is going to be also another Java class is going to be course, then hit finish. We're done. So under this under the student, what do we have under the student? Let's go under student. Let's remove everything we have from here. Let us go under the student. Under the student, we want to have what called, we use what called data access modifier, because these things are going to do what called data encapsulation, data hiding. Those are what called that's where you can create project class. Project class mean plain old Java object. As a Java, I mean is a class that has getters and setters on the private variables and so on. So that means we're going to have, of course, the student will have only two things. We're going to have private, because what we're going to come up with the value comes from the GUI is going to be student ID and names only. For the type, we're going to specify exact type while we're saving in to the database. So that means we're going to have string student underscore ID. Also, we're going to have private string student underscore names. We're done from here. After this one, you just need to generate what's called the constructor. Just right click on this guy, you go to the insert code, and then you go to the constructor, and then the first one, you have two types of the constructor. You have a constructor without any parameter, also have a constructor with parameters. So if you come up with the constructor without parameters, just there by default, you can leave it. But if you're going to use the constructor with the some parameters, if you don't specify those one without the parameters, it's not going to work. I mean, it cannot be used unless you have specified it. That's the reason why we're going to specify two types of the constructor at the same time. So let us generate this one. Also, we generate another one, insert code for with everything, select everything, then we generate. We're done for the constructors. That this one, it is for the constructor. So let us come up with what you call getters and setters. For the setters, let us right click on this guy, you go to the insert code, and then you go to the getters and setters, you select all. Just select all, and then you generate. We're done. We're generating getters and setters. This is how we create the project class. Then after this one, Ctrl S to save your class. Let us go to the lecture now. For the lecture, it's going to be also the same thing, private string lecture underscore ID. So we're going to have also private string lecture underscore names. The same process, let's click on it, you insert code, the first one for the constructor dot anything, and then you just click generate. This is the good thing of IDE. This is what we call integrated development environment for the Java. Then you select everything. We think those guys who have invented NetBeans and even other editors, it has this kind of the capability to generate them, like Eclipse and so on. Then Ctrl S. We're done for the lecture. Let us go to the course. Also for the course, we have string course ID underscore ID. Also we have private string course name. Also we have private string lecture underscore ID. Let us put for a key to identify exact comes from the private key. Now let us generate this guy. Let us insert code for the constructor. For this one, we generate this one. Also we generate the constructor with everything. Okay, we just select everything, we generate them, and then let us now generate the getters and setters. We select all, then it's been generated. It's done for the generated. Then let us Ctrl save this guy. So this is how we this is how we create the project class and so on for the model. So after this one, for the DAO, that means if we have 3 models, also we're going to have 3 DAOs. One DAO for the student, lecturer, and the course. Let us go ahead, right click on this guy, we create three classes. We're using Java class, going to be student DAO, then finish. Also going to have a Java class for lecture DAO. It finished. Let us now create course DAO. Then hit finish. We're done for the, we just create this kind of the class for the DAO. I'm going to I'm going to start with some configuration to save student, to save lecture, also to save the course. Then after that, I'm going to do how we can retrieve data, how can we update some data. We're done. Then the project will be to the end actually. So now from here, let us go on the student. Let us start for the student. That means we need to save data to the student. So actually, this kind of the model is going to act as a way to communicate. So there's something I'm going to highlight so that before you start everything. So when we just need to do what you call the CRUD application, when you just need to do the CRUD application, there's something you need to note before anything else. For the CRUD, that means what you call create, lead, update, and read. Those are the only applications that are being applied to the database. What do you mean lead? The lead, that means to select. Those are, we use keyword select. Okay, for the create we use keyword to insert, nothing else. There will be insert. For the update is always update. Okay, and delete is always the keyword for delete, nothing else. So we done for this guy. Does this what called the CRUD? But before anything else, if we need to deal with this guy, there are some layers. There's some steps to follow. The first one is just what you call to register. It's a good thing. Let us say the first step, you have to import the database driver you're going to use. Database driver. The next one, just now, after importing database driver, you have now to register the driver you want to use. You're going to register the driver. Number third, after registering the driver, you're going to create a connection. So number fourth, after, you just need to create statement. You just need to create a statement. After creating statement, you have to execute now the statement you have created. Execute statement. Then the last one, you have to close a connection you have reserved. Okay, then you're done. Those are the steps to follow, nothing else. So here we go. This is what what you're applying. This is what you call GDBC API application. This is what's called GDBC API. What do you mean GDBC? It's called Java database connectivity. It helps us to make sure our Java is able to connect with database by creating some connection on the different socket, on different port. Those guys behind, they have implemented on the API. Otherwise, you will end up we create our own things. Okay, so here we go. So we're going to follow this kind of the steps. The first one, let us go on to the project. We're going to import the driver we're going to use, our database driver we're going to use. For mine is PostgreSQL. That means I'm going you go to the library, right click on this one, you go to add the library, the first one, and then you go down. If you're using MySQL, you're going to just use exactly, where is MySQL? We have MySQL GDBC driver, but for mine, it is PostgreSQL GDBC driver. That's the one I'm going to use. Let us now go ahead and then you add the library. So this is what you call adding library. So and we're going now to create some class from here in the student DAO that's going to help us to save data to the database. Okay, so here we go. I'm going now to come here. Always this class should be accessed outside of the class. What do you mean private, public, default, and protect? Those are what you call data access modifier. So that means if a class or an object is a private, cannot be referenced or accessed outside of the class. But if a method is a public, can be accessed wherever it's being needed. So then we're going to have public. Let us first, let us say it's going to return something. Let us say public return. That means it's going to return either that has been saved successful or not. That's all. So let us say public string save student. Okay, and then let me first do like this way, and then I do something. Let us first return codes like this way. That means we just return nothing, so that we can remove the error. There's something you need to know. If we need to save student, we just need data that is being pushed in the model. We just need data that are being pushed in the model. That means for this the DAO, we need to get data that are in the model. But for this kind of the view under the graph user interface, we need to set those data. After setting those data under the model, now we get them in under the DAO to save data to database. So that means we need a parameter that are going to be a student. We are going to use actually every class in Java can act as a data type of an object. That means if we're creating an object, it's going to have a data type of that kind of the class, any kind of the class. We have a class called student of the model, and then it has the constructor. That means if we need an object to instantiate or to have to inherit everything comes within a student, we need to create an object. That's what it's called. That's where we have some relationship called has a relationship and is a relationship. Those are kind of the relationship being applied. Let us deal with them later on. So we're going to have student, but you can see if I write student cannot be used. I can write like student like this way, I'm done. But they're going to say student is not known. That means it need to be imported. You can come here, let's click on this guy, you just import model.student automatically. Okay? You can see the model.student has been imported. We're done. You're done. You're done for sure. Or you can come here, you import everything comes in model to make sure you don't have any kind of the error. So that means we have created method names called student. We have created an object that has data type of the student. That means this kind of the student, it holds every data comes from under the student. Those are kind of the public thing for the getters and setters. Let us back to the student now. So under the student, we have student. Let us use exact the name. It is a small letter. Every class starts with capital letter. This is an object name, variable name, method name. All of them start with the small letter. Please note that. So now let us go on. We need save data to database. Everything, because there's sometime we can come up with some errors like database is down, we lose a connection, that and so on. That means we need to surround our connectivity or other steps with try and catch. That means we need to catch any kind of the exception that can be raised. That means we're going to apply what we call try and catch. Why do we need actually the catch? That means if certain error raised is not going to crash our program. That means the program is going to continue learn, but certain exception is going to be captured somewhere else. Otherwise, if you don't capture, the program is going to crash. Then you can't continue. That is it. Now it has catch, and then it has use exception to catch everything. Use exception. Now you can use what we call exception.print stack trace. That means we can trace. It's going to throw all exceptions going to be raised, and then it's going to print from start to the end where the error is coming from. That's the reason why we need print stack trace. Okay, now we go under the try. Now we have just import the driver. The next one, just need to register the driver we're going to use. Okay, we just use what called driver manager, control space. You can see we have driver manager.sql. You can see it's found. You can see it's imported automatically java.sql.driver manage. You can import everything at the same time automatically so that you don't mess up. You can import everything. So because we're going to use many of them, let us import everything. Please make sure you can import everything. Put asterisk to import everything you need. So then driver manager dot register the driver, and then because our Postgres is going to be new org dot, you can see we have PostgreSQL because I have imported the driver of the PostgreSQL. That's the reason why. Otherwise, you're not going to see that one. Okay, do the driver and then import this one, the constructor. We're done by registering the driver. After this one, you just need to create a connection. The next step, just use connection control space and then use con, and this is going to be the driver manager we have registered. Okay, dot, now we need to get a connection coming from where, coming from it's going to come from the driver manager we have registered. Okay, then this kind of the get connection, you can see it has this kind of the three method. This how we call it, they can be look like the same, but I mean those are the things what you call when two method names can have the same variable, I mean object method name but different parameters. Okay, those are the things we just need to know actually. So this kind of, it has three methods, it had the same name but different parameters, it works. Otherwise you can't have the same method with the same parameters, it's not going to happen. That means we need string URL, that means we need database URL, string username and string password. Those are the things, three of the things in order to create a connection we need the URL, username and password. Let us go on, because we're going to need this kind of the connection whatever we're going to use. Let us use what we call global variable declaration. So let us have private string database URL, and then I will provide you something. Let us have private string db username. Then our username, my username is just, do you remember the username I do have? This guy. So you just put, if you have username Postgres, you have put the username Postgres. So then lastly we have db password, and then it's going to be my password, just use Java and put semicolon. So for the database URL, you just don't have to mess up, it's fine. You can, if you don't remember exactly how to work, you can come here and the service, and then you see we have this kind of the connection we have created before. You can go right click as you're going to like to rename, and then you copy everything, just copy, Ctrl C, then hit OK, and then come Ctrl V, you just paste, but remove everything you just need until to the mid same, you're done. Those are the database URL you do have, nothing else. Okay, and then you come here, you specify database URL, also we have db user, and then db password, you're done. That's how you create a connection. After this one, now you create a statement, use class statement, and then it statement. Now use exact the connection result for our project. Now you say create a statement, then put semicolon. So now we're going to execute this kind of the statement. Okay, so we're going to have a string and SQL that's going to help us to save data to the database. Okay, how can we save data to the database? We just use insert, of course. Insert into, you specify database table is called person, and then specify, let us go here, you see under the person you have ID, names, type and course. But by default now, when the user is going to save the student, it's going to save the student for the ID, names and the type, but for the course it will become later on. Let us read the question. Well, it's saying that the question is saying that create a student and lecturer and save them in the table called person first. Also create one course with the list of created students. That means we're going to first to retrieve data from database to be added in the list. Also we need to retrieve data comes from the lecturer to be added in the lecturer combo, where a course can be taught by only one lecturer and be attended by many students. What about the C? C is saying that use GDBC API to save a course, we're going to save a course in database and update the student now. That means we just have some student without the course ID. After saving a course, we're going to update table of person. Wherever we have type of student, we put the course ID of the student. That is the reason why we need a course later on. Okay, so that's the reason why we need to specify exactly. So here we go. Then insert into person, you need to specify exact the values. If you specify the columns, it's not going to make error. But if you don't specify exact the column is going to insert the data, because like for the course, as you guessed, or you get it, is going to get the data later on. That means if you don't use exactly the columns, you just continue to specify the values, you have to give all the information, all of the columns. That's the reason why we're going to first specify the columns where you're going to insert the data. So you just put bracket and specify the values. I mean, we need ID, comma, names, also type. For the course, will come later on. And then after that, specify values. For the values, we need ID is a string, remember, in database, put a quote, comma. Also, we need the names, put comma. Also, we need the type. We're done. Those are the only three of them we need. So now, if we need to grab data, this is the kind of data is going to come from the object we have instantiated, we just created to hold all the information comes from the student. That means if I'm going to use this kind of the object, like student, I come here, I just write student dot. I can't get something. I told you in DAO we need to get data. You can see we don't get something. That means we need to do what's called the concatenation so that I can add data in between of our string. That's the reason why I'm going to, if I need to concatenate under Java, we just specify double quote, then we use plus plus. Under here, that's where I can specify some data coming from our variable names. I can come here, say student, and then you can see now I can be able to get student ID and so on. Then hit enter. If it is a number, you don't put a quote, just do the concatenation, you're done. Also, we have double quotes. Also, for the name is going to be the same thing, student.get names. Then lastly, for this one is going to be hard decoded, because for the student it's going to be type of the student you done. It's going, that means it's going to be hard decoded. It's going to be always wherever we save students, it's going to have this kind of the type. We don't have to get it from anywhere. So after that, hit enter. Now let us continue. So now the next step is just to execute statement. Now here we go. How do you execute statement? So we can use okay, I'm going to have we're going to use the statement dot execute. You can use the execute. It's going to return either true or false. That means it's going to return true if data has been saved to the database, or false if data didn't save to the database. But it's a good thing just so that you don't have to mess up. If we use update, it can be used for insert, for delete and update. Those three of them. But we can now use execute query when you need to retrieve some data coming from database. So better to use two of them. Then let us use update, and then we specify our SQL. This one is going to return number of the rows that are being affected in database. That means if we inserted the 2, it's going to return integer number of 2. If we insert the 1, it's going to return 1. If we insert something but nothing has been inserted to the database, it is going to return 0. Then that means we're going to have integer, say number of rows let us say rows affected. That means we're going to return an integer number of the rows who's affected. Then we're going to say if number of the rows affected is greater than or equal to 1, that means there's certain data inside the database. Now we return, we say data saved successful. Data saved successful. Otherwise, we return what? We should say say data not saved. Not saved. We're done from here. This is how we just can able to insert, to save data for the student. Let us first learn to see if the program is going to learn. Okay. Now let us come here our project. Let us try to learn course management. Let us run the file. Let us now save student first, because that's the only one we have. Let's put some ID. This one, let us say test student with the names. Now let us save. You can see saved successful. Okay, you can see saved successful. Let us try to go on in database to see if the data has been saved there. Let us go to the service. let us go to the table of the person. Now let us view the data. Right click and let us view the data. You can see nothing has happened. Why? There's something we did as a trick to say that data has been saved, though we just get some data, but we didn't set them through our application. Okay, because we just did some trick while we are just testing. Do you remember that before we have added successful saved, though we didn't save any data? So that's the thing we're going to end with this one. That means we're going to go to the student save button. If you don't have to mess up, you can come here, just go to the student. You got the event, it's event action to be performed. You can see I'm just right here. Now wherever I have save successful, that's what we're going to call, and then we save that to the database. The first one, we're going to create a model. We're going to use the model to set those kind of data so that the DAO is going to get them. So how can we do that? We just use student, then control space. You can see by default you don't have a class. A class should be started with capital letter. Then you control space again. You can see I have student DAO and the student. Then you click student, and then let us say stud. Let us say stud, and it's going to be by using our constructor we have created there. Control space. We're done. Now let us stud dot set. Now we're going to set for the DAO we have getted. Now we're going to set. Let us set student ID. It's going to come from where? It's going to come from the student ID text coming from the GUI dot get text. We grab text. Also we have student dot set student names. Now it's going to be student names text dot get text. We done from this one. Now let us have a DAO. Let us have DAO to grab the data. That means we're going to have student DAO, control space again for the DAO to save the student now. Okay, I'm going to say let us use DAO, and then it's going to be new student DAO. Now I'm going to use DAO dot. You can see I have the save student. So now I'm going to save student, and then I put the student. Remember, this object should return a string. You remember it has under the course, the student DAO, it returns a string, either data saved successful or data not saved. So that's the reason why we're going to come here. We say string, let's say string feedback, for example, and then equal to exactly grab the value, the returning value, and then it comes say, and then data saved successful. This message should come from database, and then put feedback. Okay, now let us run the file to see what's going to happen. Okay, now let us go to the student. We pass some data, and then let us say test student. Now let us save. You can see data saved successful. Let us now go to the database to see if really data has been saved. Now let us go here. Let us view the data. You can see now the data has been saved successful, but the cost they're null because it's going to be updated later on. So before we quit, we pause this kind of the video, let us save the lecture also, then you come up with the cost to deal with the cost later on. Now let us go to the lecture. It's going to be the same thing. I'm not going to write everything. Let us go to the student. That means there's something I'm going to need, that is needed. So we just need everything. It's going to be the same thing. Okay, kindly let us just copy this kind of the private, because it's going to be always the same actually. So, and then let us go to the lecture, and then let us paste these guys. Also it's going to have, public string save lecture. Yes, and then it's going to be lecture. The model we have the same thing, control space again, log lecture, and then it's going to be lecture, and then with everything you need. So and then it's going to return first like this way. Okay, now I'm going just to surround it with try and catch. Do you remember? So we have catch, we catch all exception that can be raised. Sorry, that's catch all exception that can be raised. Exception dot print stack trace. Okay, now we print stack trace. After this one, I'm going to just copy some of them under the student DAO, like from here. Let us copy this one. Even okay, let us copy from this one. Then we write other. Okay. Now let us go to the lecture. You just paste this one. You hit OK, so that's going to be imported automatically. Okay. Now let us have a string SQL. Okay. That's going to be inside the same table. Okay. So we insert into table of called person. Specify exact the column. We need column for the ID. Let us have remind ourselves. We have ID, names, call names also, type, and then values, and then specify the values, and then have 3 of them, comma, and then let us have the same double quotes, and then you concatenate. We use the lecture now we have here, lecture. So it's going to be lecture dot get. Now we need to get lecture ID. After grabbing lecture ID, also we need quotes is going to be lecture. Sorry. This will be this is a class. Small letter lecture dot get lecture names. Then lastly, the type always going to be lecturer. That's the type. Let us use small letters so that we don't mess up. Okay, so that means always the type is going to be lecture in small letter. We're done with this guy. Now let us go on. Let us just copy something else from the student DAO. That means I'm going to just copy this one because it's going to be the same, right? Then we just go to the course, and then at the end we just continue like this way. Now we paste here. Number of rows is going to be the same. Now we say data saved successful or data not saved. We're done. Now let us relearn the program. Let us quit the one we have here. But before, we just need to go ahead and the course management. Also, we need to configure the save button for the lecture to save those kind of the data. Okay, you can see we don't have anything. So that means we're going to have lecture, for the model control space again, and then it's going to be, let us say, with lecture like this way, and then it's going to be new lecture. So now we're going to say lecture dot set. Now we set the same process for the lecture ID. It's going to be lecture ID text dot get text. We grab the text. Also, lastly, we have lecture dot set lecture names. Then it's going to be lecture control space lecture name text dot get text. Okay, now we good to go. Right now we're going to create the model. I mean the DAO for it. It is the same process actually. Lecturer control space again. We go to the DAO. It has called DAO. And this is going to be new lecture DAO, and then we use DAO dot save, and then specify lecture like this way, and then we're going to use string feedback. Now we just use the feedback and our text field. Now let us save. Let us run the file, and then you see what's going to happen. Now let us save some data for the ID For the lecturer, let us say Richard, and then it has save. You can see data save successful. Now let us go to see if in database data has been saved successful. Let us right click on then let us view the data. For this kind of department, you can see we have ID, test student Richard, lecturer, but you can see the type is lecturer now for this guy. Okay, so this is how we're just saving, but through the types and so on. Those are the difference between of them. So that's all what we have from here. The thing that we're working on, so that means we're just waiting. I mean, we're going to do the last things where we have for the cost, how we're going to deal with the cost and nothing, guys. Thank you all. See you next part.